Hello, parents, caretakers, grandparents, teachers. Thank you for coming back again and again. I'm sure you must be enjoying some of these episodes, these short episodes that we are just trying to just shoot in that can capture your heart. For the next 7 sessions, we are going to on this topic that we are going to hold on. How do we mentor our children, our teenagers, even mentor our young people in our youth groups, in our classes, in our Sunday schools? How do we even mentor them? We're going to talk about that in the next 7 sessions. Now let's start with the first place, and that's the anchor. That's the foundation. The most important thing in investing in the next generation is pointing them to our Heavenly Father. The most important thing in mentoring the next generation is pointing them to the Heavenly Father. Not dragging them to our Heavenly Father, not pushing them to the Heavenly Father, not slapping them to our Heavenly Father, they would come out of guilt. No. Not legalistically hitting them with rules, so out of condemnation they will come running to the Heavenly Father. No. It's we pointing them that they would enjoy their walk to come to the Heavenly Father. We need to point them. What are some of the ways that we can point them? One of the best ways for us to point our children, our teenagers to our Heavenly Father is that our lives begin to speak more than our words. Our life begins to speak more than our words. 2, our habits begin to speak more than our words. Our habits begin to speak more than our words. 3, our responses begin to speak more than our words. The way we respond in certain situations begin to speak more than our words. 4, our victories and how we handle our victories begin to speak more than our words. And lastly, 5, how we handle our crisis begins to speak more than our words. You see what I'm saying? This is how we begin to point our children to our Heavenly Father. The first step in discipling the next generation, in investing into the next generation, is pointing them to the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Lord of all kings, and the King of all lords. We point them to that Heavenly Father who is a sovereign, omniscient, omnipotent God. We point them that they would come running to their own Heavenly Father. I was having a conversation with one of my sons yesterday, and as we were having the conversation, he was acknowledging this, and he said, "Dad, some of the best scientists and some of the best inventors are all people who really loved the Lord." And I said, yeah. And many of those people who walked with the Lord. And he brought this up very interestingly. I said, "What is that?" He said, "It's interesting to see that in many of these lives, when they began to discover science, they have found God. When they began to discover science, they have found God." And then he used a very interesting illustration. And it was an interesting paradigm that he said. He had read it somewhere, and he just said, "Dad, you know what? God made the fish and the animals, and then he said, no, for the fish and for all of the creatures in the sea, we need to create water." He created the seas and the land, and after he created the seas and the land, and then he created the sea creatures and the animals in the land. And he said something very interesting. He said, "Dad, this is what I read. If you take the animals out of the land, the animals would die. If you take the fish and the sea creatures out of the water, then they will die." And then in the same breath he said, "If you take man out of God, man dies." I was just so blessed when I was having this conversation with him last night, and I just said, that's so true. And I was so reminded of Pascal's statement, "As a motorbike is designed to run on petrol, man is designed to run on God." The first paradigm in mentoring our children, our teenagers, I think we need to point them to our Heavenly Father. May this journey that you're taking be a fruitful journey. May this journey give you greater fruits and productivity. May this journey bring more deeper connections with your children. Please understand, the first place as we mentor our children, our teenagers, is how we point them towards our Heavenly Father. Let's do it. Let's do it consciously. Let's do it intentionally.